when you're feeling that judgment, the pressure to perform, the self-imposed urgency and stress to constantly post, constantly create, that's when your nervous system will literally shut down. And that's when you will self-sabotage so much that you will end up burning out, and every single idea will feel so heavy. And that's when you will completely shut down. So in this video, we're gonna talk about why you always feel stuck as a creator and how you can regulate your nervous system and change your identity so that you become aligned with the brand you're trying to build, with the business that you're trying to scale, and actually have fun and resonate with the content that you're trying to create.
Back in my bag, I'm at it again. Rotate the roster, just toss out a 10. That shit just don't even matter to him. Took me a minute to comprehend. Shit that I needed, I had within. Used to place all of my trust in them. I'm never doing that shit again.
So the very first thing that I want to touch on is that your problem, 99% of the time, is not the strategy. So I'm seeing this more and more with even the clients that I consult with, entrepreneurs, business owners that are trying to grow on social media. They're in this state of, I don't know what to post. I don't know where to start. I don't know what's the best idea for this post. I don't know what to say. And they're so obsessed with what is the best hook? What is the best script for this? What is the best content idea? But deep down, what's happening is that your nervous system is literally shutting down. You're in this freeze mode because deep down you have a fear of being seen as someone important, as someone who's actually providing value. So what you end up doing is self-sabotaging. Every time you're trying to film something, you stop and you do something else instead. All because your nervous system doesn't feel safe. Your brain doesn't feel safe doing that, and then at the same time, it also forces you and tricks you into thinking it's the strategy. And again, I'm here to tell you it's not the strategy, it's your internal state and nervous system, which we have to regulate. So let's talk about how your nervous system can block you from creating the content that you want to create. So you might have a fear of being judged by your close ones. You might have this self-imposed urgency because you're constantly comparing yourself to others and thinking that you're constantly behind. You might have this fear deep down of not being good enough to serve the clients that you want to work with. And so all of these negative emotions, which come from fear, these signal to your brain that you're not safe. And this in turn shuts down your creative states. So if you've ever had that brain fog, like I cannot come up with an idea for my newest video, I do not know what to say, it's because of that. And it's very important to understand whenever it comes to content creation and building an online business, there's usually two things. It's either the strategy that is blocking you from growing or your nervous system that is keeping you stuck. And 99% of the time, the identity that you hold is not the identity that is able to do the things that you want to do in the moment. So look, the reason why I'm telling you all of this is I went through it earlier this year and probably most of my life while being in business. But earlier this year, I was starting to scale my consulting business, started to get more and more clients, more results, more numbers and everything. And I was in that moment and in that sort of bubble of obsessing over systems, obsessing over strategy. What is the best possible protocol to follow? What is the best possible program structure for my clients? What is the best possible content that I can do? And I was so obsessed with that my mind literally went into this spiral. My nervous system was completely fried. And then I went through a 2 months, almost 3 months period of burnout. And I had to take a step back. I had to completely stop what I was doing before because I realized it's not sustainable. And I had to regulate my internal state. I had to take a look at the current identity that I was holding, and I had to completely rewire my mind. So if you're there mentally, if you're feeling stuck right now, I want you to stop. Stop creating. It sounds super counterintuitive. Like, what do you mean stop creating? I have to post. No, you have to regulate your nervous system. You have to give yourself space. You have to start meditating, journaling, take a walk in the morning, clear your mind, block your phone, stop comparing yourself to others because again, that's the self-imposed urgency and that will cause a lot of fear and this feeling of being behind, and start looking within. Try to be aware of the patterns that you have. Try to change your internal language. Try to go go from negative patterns to positive patterns. Journal and start writing down the things that you're grateful for. Start writing down that you're actually capable of doing all of this. And you're gonna see the more you operate from a peaceful state, the better ideas you're gonna have, the easier everything is gonna feel. The more you're gonna be able to post, the better consistency you're gonna get. Because the hardest lesson that I had to learn in the hardest possible way was that it doesn't matter how much work you put in if your identity and self-image are a complete mess. It all starts within. And the best thing I did to regulate my nervous system was to track signs and patterns of dysregulation. So this is all about you becoming super aware of all of the patterns that your mind has, all of the patterns that have been keeping you stuck so far. Because as you're creating content, you might overthink. You might be afraid of the judgment. You might not know what to post, and you might go into this spiral, and these triggers are literally gonna fry your nervous system. And this is different for everyone, but usually this kind of stress and pressure and anxiety manifests with body signals. You might feel that anxiety and fear like something bad is gonna happen, like you get shallow breath whenever you want to record, whenever you want to film content. So all of these little signals, you have to be super aware of them and track every single trigger, because it's usually a pattern. You get a trigger, then a sensation, a protective behavior, then you get regrets, and then you get more pressure. Let's say you gotta post content for your business this week, and you know you gotta do the research, you gotta post, you gotta write the script, you gotta film, and it's all of this process, right? You might have that trigger, you might do the research, for example. In the beginning, you might do the research, and then you might see some competitors. And then you're gonna compare yourself to others, you're gonna have that trigger of, oh my God, I'm behind. Then that's the sensation of the self-imposed urgency, like I'm behind, I'm not doing enough. And then the protective behavior is literally your nervous system trying to stop you from doing that activity. You stop doing research, you stop preparing your scripts, and then you get the regrets. You get that negative feeling like, why did I stop? And then you end up putting even more pressure on yourself, and it's this negative cycle that keeps on going and is keeping you stuck. So what you can do with this is literally track the biggest spikes, the biggest triggers that set off this weird cycle, and then the one behavior you always do when that trigger happens. And again, nothing matters unless your identity is aligned, because consistency cannot come from a bad self-image. If you see yourself deep down as being inconsistent, your mind will literally project that reality, and that's gonna be your life. That's gonna be the pattern that you hold. That's gonna be your business. If deep down you feel like you're not good enough to work with amazing clients, to charge a lot of money, 5 figures for your offer, you're not gonna be able to sign those clients. And you're gonna do discounts. You're gonna over deliver. You're gonna go into this mode of trying to constantly prove yourself. And if you're there right now, you have to stop and you have to realize you're not creating content to prove anything to anyone. It's about showing up as yourself. It's not about competing with the market. It's not about proving anything. If you hold that expectation, if you're constantly pressed by the judgment, by this feeling of I have to perform, listen to me, there's no strategy, no secret funnel out there that's gonna fix that. So instead of operating from this having to prove mentality and state, try to operate from a peaceful, grateful state of genuinely showing up as yourself, providing value and helping people. And what you can implement on a daily basis is what I like to call identity scripting. So start writing down the things that your new identity is doing. Like, I feel safe to be seen. I can create amazing content. I can get amazing clients, because that is gonna brainwash your mind into letting go of the current identity that you hold and that is holding you back, and stepping into the new version of you that can create what you wanna create. And throughout this entire process, you really have to stop and take care of yourself, take care of your soul, of your mind. I know so many people are preaching strategies, funnels, but no one is preaching you actually taking care of the belief system and of your inner self. And then more than that, give yourself the permission to play, just like a kid. Instead of obsessing over, oh my God, I have to grind, I have to hustle. No, give yourself the permission to have fun, to experiment, to go against the wave, to create the things that you want to create, to talk about the things that you're passionate about. You might want to do a 10-minute rant on Instagram stories about a subject. Do that. You might want to talk about some really in-depth stuff, but you're afraid your niche or your close friends or your followers or whatever are going to judge you. do that. Because when you create your own lane, when you say, you know what, fuck the market, and you create your own lane, that's when you win. When I stopped obsessing over what is the best possible funnel, what is the best possible strategy to use, and I started to come back to that natural creative state, almost like childlike, that's when everything started to flow for me. That's what I'm trying to tell you. When you don't care about the market, that is when you will create your own lane. And as Steve Jobs once said, innovation is what separates leaders from followers. So if you want to innovate, if you actually want to create content that makes a difference, give yourself permission to be like a kid again and create.